You know, if I ask you to close your eyes and picture a painting by J.M.W. Turner, I can almost guarantee what you see.
Oh, yeah. It's a golden sunset.
A golden sunset, maybe a big ship fighting a storm, you know, the painter of light, the safe, respectable genius you see on a biscuit tin.
That's the standard definition, for sure. It's the version of Turner that fits neatly into a museum brochure. But the man behind the canvas, he was something else entirely.
That is exactly what we were getting into today. We're sort of taking a sledgehammer to that polite image. Because the reality is, Turner wasn't just a painter. He was much, much closer to a mad scientist.
Or maybe an alchemist.
Right. I mean, we're talking about a man who lived a double life under a fake name, who treated vision like a hard science, and get this, physically modified his own body just to manipulate paint.
We have to get to the fingernail thing. It's wild.
Oh, we will. But it's all part of this methodical madness. The whole point today is to unpack how a guy who looked like a shabby Bacchus and couldn't string a sentence together somehow anticipated modern art by a century.
And to do that, you have to start with the side of him that totally contradicts that wild artist image.
Exactly. I was shocked to learn that this guy, whose paintings look like pure swirling chaos, was actually a major establishment figure.
He wasn't just a member of the Royal Academy, he was a professor.
A professor of perspective, of all things. For 30 years.
It sounds so ironic, doesn't it?
Totally. When I look at a Turner painting, half the time I can't tell up from down. It's a vortex of light and steam. So why is the vortex guy teaching rigid geometry?
Well, because that's the key to his whole method. For him, art wasn't just about pretty pictures. He was trying to link anatomy, architecture, and painting into this one unified science of vision.
He had that quote right. To see clearly is...
To see clearly is poetry, prophecy, and religion all in one.
Poetry, prophecy, and religion. That is a heavy statement. But then you hear about his actual lectures, and the reality was, a bit of disaster.
A disaster might be putting it kindly. By all accounts, he was a terrible public speaker.
How bad are we talking?
He'd just mumble. He was confusing. He'd lose his place in his notes. His delivery was called shambling. And you have to remember, the Royal Academy was this very stuffy, formal place.
And in walks Turner with his Cockney accent, just rambling about geometry.
Mm-hmm. And there's that amazing anecdote about his life drawing classes.
Oh, the Roman warriors one.
He wouldn't use his students' names?
No. He'd look at a student sketching a Roman statue and just call him by the statue's name. He'd yell out, "Hey, Germanicus, what are you doing?" Or, "Look here, Discobolus."
It's such a strange disconnect. This sort of uncouth old wizard, as one person called him, trying to channel all this classical grandeur.
But here's the thing. He couldn't speak it, but he could show it. His lectures had these diagrams.
180 of them. And they were huge.
So the students couldn't understand a word he was saying.
But they're staring at these gigantic, mysterious, and incredibly complex charts that prove he understood the math behind the magic.
It's like he had the source code for how the world looked, but no verbal interface to explain it. He could only outpoint it visually.
Precisely. He mastered the rules of perspective so he would know exactly how to break them. He wasn't painting chaos. He was engineering it.
Which brings us to his laboratory. I mean, we call him a painter, but that word just feels insufficient.
It really does. This is where the alchemist comparison feels so right. He didn't treat paint like some precious material. He treated it like raw stuff to be bullied into submission.
Okay, we have to talk about the thumb, the eagle claw.
It's true. It's not a myth. He grew a specific long fingernail on his thumb.
Just the one.
Just the one. It was a tool, a precision instrument. He'd use it to scrape into wet paint on the canvas.
That's so visceral. He was literally clawing the light into the painting.
If he needed a highlight on a wave or the edge of a rock, he wouldn't grab a brush, he'd just gouge it with his talon.
And he didn't stop there. He used stale breadcrumbs.
As erasers, yep. If he needed to lift out a highlight, he'd just rub it with a breadcrumb. Oh, and he also liked to spit directly onto his powder colors instead of using clean water.
So we got spit, breadcrumbs, and a fingernail.
Yeah.
It's less like fine art and more like a very messy recipe.
But it worked. The problem was, the critics had no idea what to make of it.
They just saw the mess.
They called his work soapsuds and whitewash.
Ouch. Soapsuds and whitewash.
One critic even said his paintings looked like the fruits of a diseased eye. They literally thought he was either losing his mind or going blind.
But Turner seemed to thrive on all that. He loved the performance of it all, which brings us to the varnishing days.
Ah, yes. The best stories. So varnishing days were the few days right before an exhibition opened.
Artists could come in and do some final touch-ups. A little dab of varnish, fix a detail.
But not Turner. He treated it like a live sporting event.
He'd send in a canvas that was what? Basically blank.
Pretty much. Maybe some vague washes of gray, what they called white spots. He'd send in a ghost of a painting. And then, over those 3 days, he would paint the entire masterpiece right there on the wall.
In front of everyone. That's such a power move. I'll do it live.
It was a spectacle. The other artists would literally stop working just to watch him transform these white blobs into crashing waves and storms. It was an assertion of dominance.
Which leads to the ultimate showdown, the Red Buoy incident with John Constable.
1832. The ultimate rivalry. You have to remember, Constable was the other giant of British landscape painting. Very green, lush, detailed.
And they were hanging their paintings side by side.
Exactly. Constable's painting was the opening of Waterloo Bridge. It was a riot of color-bright reds, golds, flags, super loud.
And Turner's painting next to it was
a cool, gray, misty seascape. Very quiet. So Turner walks in, looks at Constable's explosion of red, looks at his own gray painting, and realizes he's being completely overpowered.
Now what does he do?
He takes his brush, grabs a single daub of bright red paint, and puts one small blob, about the size of a coin, right in the middle of his gray sea, and then he just walks away.
He just leaves a red dot there.
For a while, yeah. People thought he'd gone mad, that he'd ruined it. Then, later in the day, he comes back, takes a cloth, gives the blob a little wipe, and shapes it into a buoy.
A buoy.
A single red buoy. And suddenly, the whole painting just pops. That one splash of red perfectly balanced the entire canvas and completely upstaged Constable.
Constable's reaction was amazing. He said something like,
"He has been here and fired a gun."
Fired a gun? He knew he'd been beaten by a dot.
It's pure genius. But for all this public showmanship, he was so private about how he gathered his material. People describe him as a nomad.
Right, he'd just disappear all summer. No entourage. Just him, a big hat, an umbrella, and a tiny notebook.
And he walked everywhere, sometimes 60 kilometers in a single day.
Which is marathon level, day after day.
Because he wasn't just enjoying the view, he was acting like a human camera, just archiving data.
This is the famous Turner bequest, right? The 19,000 sketches he left behind.
19,000. And they weren't just random scribbles. He had this shorthand system. He could see a complex battleship, make a few jagged lines, and then years later, back in his studio, he could recall exactly how the rigging worked.
He was making metadata for his own brain.
Exactly. He treated nature like a library. He'd bind the sketches, number them, give them leather labels. He was building a database of the world so he could reassemble it later.
That's so different from the Impressionists who came after him. They were all about painting, right there, in the moment.
Not Turner. He was like, nope, I'm going to scan this into my brain and render it later in the lab.
So he's got this massive archive. He's got this incredible technique. But he was also deeply concerned with his own legacy.
Incredibly competitive, but not just with living artists like Constable. He was competing with the dead.
His big obsession was Claude Lorraine, the 17th century master.
He was the gold standard. And in his will, Turner left 2 of his greatest paintings to the nation on one condition.
They had to hang next to Claude Lorraine's paintings forever.
He wanted every single person who visited that gallery for the rest of time to see the comparison and conclude that he, Turner, had surpassed the master.
But it wasn't just about art history, was it? He started using his art to comment on modern politics, on the world around him.
Which brings us to The Slave Ship.
A brutal painting. People see the beautiful blood-red sunset, but when you look closer, it's a horror show.
It is. It depicts a real event, the Zong Massacre, where enslaved people were thrown overboard for the insurance money. Turner paints the sea full of shackles and limbs being eaten by fish.
He's using that sublime, terrifying beauty of nature to talk about the terrifying cruelty of humanity.
He was an abolitionist, and he was forcing his audience to confront something they'd rather ignore. And he did the same thing with the future, with the Industrial Revolution.
Rain, steam, and speed. The train painting.
Most artists at the time hated industry. They thought trains and factories were ugly. Turner looked at a steam engine and saw a man-made storm.
He saw a new kind of sublime, a new force of nature.
He became a prophet of the modern age. While everyone else was still painting cows, Turner was painting the velocity of the future.
So you have this public figure, the prophet, the professor, but then as he gets older, he just disappears.
The great Chelsea secret.
This is my favorite part of his story. The most famous artist in Britain is living a double life in a small cottage under a fake name.
He called himself Mr. Booth. The locals, who thought he was just some old retired sailor, called him Puggy Booth, or the Admiral.
Puggy Booth. Can you imagine you're walking past the greatest painter of the age and just yelling, "Morning, Puggy."
And he loved it. He loved the anonymity. He'd stand on the flat roof of the cottage, which he'd railed in like a ship's deck, just watching.
Not painting, just watching.
Just watching the sky and the river, hiding from his theme so he could be alone with the light. He was moving beyond painting things entirely and just painting pure atmosphere.
But there's a darker side to that end-of-life period. The story of the burnt sketches.
It's a real tragedy. After Turner died, his biggest supporter, the critic John Ruskin, was going through his archives and supposedly found a portfolio of erotic drawings.
And being a proper Victorian,
He allegedly burned them to protect Turner's reputation. He sanitized the man to preserve the legend.
that's just painful. Erasing the real person.
And it wasn't the only tragedy. His will. He had saved every penny his whole life for one single purpose.
He wanted to build a home for decayed artists.
A refuge for painters who had fallen on hard times. He knew how difficult the life was, but his family and their lawyers contested the will.
Let me guess, the lawyers won.
The lawyers always win. The legal battle went on for years, and the refuge was never built. The money just vanished.
That's heartbreaking. So his great final wish just evaporated.
It did. But the work is what remains. And his very last words, reportedly, sum up his entire life's quest.
The sun is God.
The sun is God. For him, it wasn't just a metaphor. He spent his entire life chasing that divine energy. He started as a barber's son in a dark London alley and ended up trying to paint the source of all life.
And that's why he still feels so modern. His late work isn't about a place or a thing. It's just about the raw experience of light and seeing.
It really is.
Which makes me wonder, and this is something for you to think about, if Turner were alive today, with all our technology, would he even be a painter?
That is a great question.
I mean, think about it. He was obsessed with light, with immersive experiences, with elemental fury. Would he be messing around with oil paint? Or would he be working with IMAX cameras? Or creating pure light installations?
I think he would have abandoned canvas in a heartbeat. He was always trying to break the frame. He'd want to put you inside the storm, not just show you a picture of it.
He'd be a director, a virtual reality designer.
A 4D immersive storm experience by J.M.W. Turner. I'd buy a ticket for that.
Me too. Well, next time you see a sunset or a storm rolling in, try to see it the way Turner did, not just as a pretty view, but as this massive swirling machine of light and energy.
Just maybe don't lash yourself to a mast to get the full effect.
Good advice. Thanks for listening to our conversation on the methodical madness of J.M.W. Turner. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We'll see you then.